SBI Chief Arundhati Bhattacharya believes that better coordination amongst agencies will speed up loan recovery. In an exclusive chat with ET Now, she says that the Bankruptcy Act may not be a magic wand. It will take at least 24 to 36 full months to be fully functional in the country.
If there is coordination between all agencies, then probably recovery can happen faster. However, having said that, each of these agencies have their own priority, and that is something, unless we bring that in sync, then recovery might be losing the priority, and that I wouldn't like. However, if recovery remains the priority of all three agencies, then probably it can be speeded up.
But the fact is that when banks are in the business of lending and taking risks, so how much flexibility do banks really, especially public sector banks, have in the matter of, say, compromise settlements? In the case of Kingfisher Airlines again, for instance, will public sector banks have the courage to accept a haircut, knowing full well that they could be subjected to all kinds of inquisitions by the CBC, the CBI, etc. much later? And in this context, what is your reaction to the idea of a government-appointed pricing committee?
Actually, I think the idea that the government had was to have a committee that would not fix the price, but that would vet the process to say that the process that has been followed is in order. Because it's difficult, to have a committee that's going to look at so many accounts that might be coming up for compromise settlements and then give an opinion on each of them. I don't really think that there are too many experts with sufficient amount of time to do that job.
So you don't think that would be interference, because even the process of, surely public sector banks are competent to decide what is the due process?
Actually, the fact of the matter is that the public sector banks also probably were looking for some comfort that a third party is looking at the processes being followed, so that at a subsequent date they don't get questioned and they don't get harassed. So it was not something that was only coming from the government side, it was probably also coming from the bankers' side to give them, as I said again, a sense of comfort.
But that brings us to the crux of the problem, that today bankers have been reduced to a state that they're constantly looking over their shoulder before they take a decision. Now, can proper lending ever be done in an environment like that?
It is difficult. It is obviously difficult because you're always trying to second guess a decision. And as you know very well, hindsight is always 20/20. When you take a decision, certain things appear in a certain light. When you revisit that decision subsequently on account of things that may have happened in the interim, it appears that the decision was not really very well thought out. So if that is the case, and because hindsight is always 20/20, you constantly second guess decisions, and obviously that causes a kind of delay, it causes paralysis, it does cause issues, and I think this is normal whenever there is a spike in the NPA cycle, and that is also something that we anticipate is happening and will happen for at least some time going forward.
And it's hardly a secret that public sector bank chairmen function under a number of constraints, many of which arise from their public ownership. So they're compelled to, say, give loans to infrastructure projects, state electricity boards, open Jan Dhan Yojana accounts on a much larger scale. All of this might be contributing to nation building. But when the chickens come home to roost, as in market valuations, public perception, they get no credit for all this. Given this kind of state of affairs, have you ever been a bit envious of, say, a Chanda Kochar or a Shikha Sharma? Remember, ICICI Bank was able to offload its exposure in the case of Kingfisher to SRI, whereas you could not do it.
Well, as I said, we do have our difficulties. Having said that, I still believe that one of the reasons why we still have 70% of the economy is because of the fact that this country is a developing country. And in spite of the brickbats that we continue to get, I still believe we have a developmental role. End of the day, if all of us were only doing home loans, how would this country develop? End of the day, again, if all of us were not willing to look at any risk, then would there be any way that we would develop from an agrarian nation to a developed nation? So I think, we have to sort of, balance the whole thing and say that yes, there is a need to do these kinds of loans to support infrastructure, to support core sector. When there is a downturn, there will be issues. We need to be balanced about those issues. We need to understand what went wrong and maybe draw a number of lessons. Where we are not nimble enough, for instance, if you are looking at the downloading of the exposure to SREI, one thing I must say that they also had very good security. They had certain shares against it. Again there, public sector banks have been a little wary about taking on shares because there is a capital market exposure possible that could come alongside of it. So these are things that we need to learn, how to get the better quality security, how to be nimble enough in order to offload exposure as quickly as possible when you sense trouble. These are things definitely that the public sector could well do, learning and internalizing.
You've recently gone on record to say that conditions are coming together that are likely to help resolve this NPA issue. What makes you so hopeful? Because quite frankly, I don't see a change in any of the circumstances that led to the rise of NPAs in the first place.
See, there are several things which I believe have actually happened. If you look at the projects, the way they are getting conceived now, I think they are getting conceived in much better manner. There has been a lot of pushback from us, for instance, that we will not fund any road project unless they come with 100% approvals and minimum 80% contiguous land. Just last week, we had one road project that was offered to us where 100% land is already acquired. Now, this is not something that we would have seen 5-6 years back. Coming with 100% land, unheard of. So basically, what we are finding is both the promoters as well as the government is much more serious today in ensuring that if the projects have to be done, then they must be bid out in a manner that it would be possible to complete them within a given space of time. Now, after that, if the promoter is bad and is not able to finish during that space of time, well, of course, such promoters should not be supported by us.
But another effort is that the bankruptcy law, so much has been made about it, but it's yet to be passed by the Rajya Sabha. Even assuming that it is passed, are we being a little unrealistic in seeing it as some kind of a magic wand in the speedy resolution of NPAs? After all, time limits were laid down under the DRT, the SBI Act, and it didn't really help matters. Does it mean that the only effective remedy for NPAs really lies in addressing the entire ecosystem rather than just one part of it, recovery by banks?
I fully agree with you, and I do not think the Bankruptcy Act is going to be a magic wand, not only because it's only one law, but also because the mechanism for implementing it, that itself is currently not available in the country. You need bankruptcy professionals, professionals who will actually work on this, who will hold the asset during that period. So all of those professionals are currently not available in the country.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.